So Chani, congratulations first of all. A big congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So when did you know that you have to do and if you have to like go to Harvard?
I think I decided that I want to do an MBA last year. I was very busy with my job over the last couple of years, so I didn't really give much thought to it. But once the pandemic happened, I got a chance to think, and that's when I actually decided to apply. So I didn't have too much time, but I mean, hopefully, I mean, it's good that I managed everything.
Yeah, manage everything is like an understatement.
Yeah.
So what was your bachelor's degree in, and and after your bachelor's degree, what have you been doing?
So my profile is actually quite unique when it comes to an MBA. My bachelor's degree is actually in physics. So I was a science student all my life. And after my bachelor's degree, I worked in a startup called Zilingo. So I worked with the startup for 4 years now. And that's the only work experience that I had. So I think two things that really stood out for me when it came to my career and my professional background. One was I had a lot of international exposure because I started my job in India, then I got posted to Thailand, then to Indonesia, and then finally to Singapore. So I think that really worked in my favor. The second thing that really worked was when I joined my company, it only had 50 people and they had just raised a Series A round. But I think 4 years later, right, we now have a company of 700 people and it's valued close to $1 billion. So I think when you work in a company that grows so fast, there are a lot of experiences that you have that sort of work in your favor when you apply for a B school.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting profile actually. No, very different. So, and in addition to your like work and also, can you elaborate a little bit about your work? What is it? What are your day-to-day responsibilities, and how did you bring that to the fore in your essays?
Got it. I think for me, right, my work was not very standard. So, just for context, I work in the CEO's office of Zilingo. So, in terms of my daily responsibilities, right, it ranged across different verticals. I think one was investor relations, managing finance, etc. Second was managing the P&L for the entire organization. So, talking to country managers, making sure targets are met, and third was basically strategic initiatives that can like help the organization grow. So it's a very broad range when you really think about it. And that's why when I wanted to portray what I'm doing, right, I had to take a step back and I had to reflect on whatever I've done in my job. So I actually took a few weeks off from work, specifically for the application process. And I sat back and I reflected on what I had done up until now. And I picked out the experiences that really shaped me and that helped me reach here. And once I was able to narrow down those experiences, right, it became very easy for me to build a story around that and to actually understand where I'm coming from and reflect on what all I've done. So that really helped me.
And when did you start preparing for your GMAT, and how much time did you spend on your GMAT exam?
So I started preparing for my GMAT also last year. It was very rushed. I prepared for a month and it was very hurried and I underestimated the exam. So I gave the paper, I scored a 690. I was extremely sad. And I remember the same day I came to Jambori in Singapore. I went to the office and I sort of signed up for the classes. After that, I prepared for one more month with Roshan and Vishal, and I gave the paper again. And in my second attempt, I scored a 750.
That's a 60-point jump.
Yeah, yeah,
So the first attempt I understand was when you studied on your own,
yes,
right?
yes.
Right. And then you came to Jambori, so you got a 60-point jump. So, what are the things that you did differently the second time around?
I think the first time, right, I treated the exam like a very standard exam that I've given in high school or even in my college, right? So I knew what had to be done, and I was like, okay, this is the syllabus and this is what I should cover. But I think second time there were two different things that I really worked on. One was understanding the questions and what can come, what makes logical sense. And the second thing that I worked on was on remaining calm because unlike most papers, right, what you do before the exam also matters, but what you do during the exam matters the most. So if you're not calm during the exam, then that can sort of mess up your entire paper. So I think that's what changed from the second and the first time.
You are from the science background. You have been a physics student, and also, did you find the maths portion comparatively easier than the verbal portion?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think the verbal portion I knew nothing about. I was very underconfident about it. Math I definitely found easier. So in the first attempt, also I scored a 48 in my paper. But it was hard for me to go above the 48 because my math background and my science background helped me reach till there. But if you don't break down problems, don't try to understand what is happening logically, etc., and also the time is a big issue. That's what I found. It becomes hard to cross that 48 barrier. So that was my struggle in math. But in the verbal section, I think it was a clean slate. I knew nothing, so I had to start from the beginning.
So when you were preparing and when you took the exam for the first time, so what were your split scores, the sectional scores? Would you remember?
Okay, I don't remember the
49,
number.
48 you said, right? In math.
48 in math, and I think 35 in verbal. I may be getting like 1 or 2 points off,
All right, all right.
around that range.
And when you got the 750, what was your split?
So it was quant 50 and verbal 41.
All right. Oh, that is impressive. Right. So, how many full-length mock tests did you take?
Oh, many. So I think the first time I gave the exam, I spent a lot of time taking mocks because I thought giving mocks would help me. Because my main struggle was that because I hadn't given a paper for so long, right, and I had been working, it was hard for me to get into the exam mode. So my biggest fear was that I would not be able to concentrate for those 3 hours. So I took a lot of mocks so that I would get into that mode of sort of studying for the exam. And but the second time what I did was I made sure that I take a mock on Sundays and probably alternate Sundays. I didn't take too many mocks before the second paper. I took a few mocks, but I planned it very strategically. So I made sure that my studying and my mocks were sort of going hand in hand. Because they should go hand in hand. I mean, don't over index on the mocks, I would say, because that sort of also discourages you. I remember every time I would do badly in a mock, right, for the next 2 3 days, I would be very disheartened and it would take me time to get back up. So I think both of them should go hand in hand.
So, when you were there, I mean, you have already taken the exam once. So, when you started preparing with Jambodi the second time, did you still like have a couple of, oh wow, I didn't see this coming kind of moments?
Many, many moments. I remember with Vishal, we were studying mostly virtually. And a lot of times when he would solve a problem, I would be very surprised as to how this has happened. My many years in science and math had not prepared me for those questions. And with Roshan, I remember we used to meet in person, and every time there was a question I would get wrong, Roshan would give a very simple explanation. And then I would often feel very stupid about not catching that at first. So yeah, there were too many eureka moments for me in both quant and verb.
When did you start applying?
Applying to colleges.
Yeah, yeah, applying to universities, yes.
So initially I was aiming for round one, but that got missed because I had to take the GMAT one more time. So I decided to apply for round two. And what I was also told by many of my seniors was that round one and round two are mostly similar. Your chances of getting in are mostly similar. So I had a month, I think 1.5 months before my round two applications. So I wrote my essays in those 1.5 months. But I wanted to be really confident that what I was writing was actually right. So I took a couple of weeks off from my work so I could concentrate on the essays and write them properly.
How many colleges in total did you apply to?
I applied to some 6 colleges, I think. In the beginning, I was really scared that I would not get in anywhere. So I ended up doing too many applications. Now, when I go back and think about it, I think applying strategically would have also helped me. I don't think I should have done so many colleges, but I applied to around 6.
No, I think six is a pretty, fair thing. Otherwise you would have been really, running the risk of getting a reject if you would have applied to just two or three. So
Yeah.
six, I think, is a 4 to 6 is actually a fair, fair number, I would say.
Yes.
Going beyond six is like being a little, yeah, obsessive. But yeah, 4 to 6 is, I think, is in the safe zone. So in addition to Harvard, which other colleges did you apply to?
So I applied to, so I got admits from Harvard, Booth, Kellogg, and London Business School. And I got a waitlist from Wharton. So those are 5 colleges. And I also applied to Stanford. So these were the 6.
And you're waiting on Stanford?
No, no, Stanford was a clear reject. But the others, I got 4 acceptances and 1 waitlist.
No, it just goes to show that the things that different universities are looking for, right? I mean, for instance, the Wharton and Stanford, you would think would be easier to get into than getting into Harvard, but it just goes to show that different universities are looking for different types of candidates, right? So I think that's an important lesson, for applicants, at least when they are choosing the universities. So when you chose these six, so what were the things that you're looking for? Why did you shortlist this like specific list of 6 schools?
I think that I sort of some thought went into that. I wanted to make sure that there are reach schools and there are dream schools and then there are safety schools. So I wanted to make sure that I was covering all of those grounds. So I know that most the schools that I applied to were actually all very very good schools, but I wanted to make sure that my school choices were a little diverse at least. So I picked schools that had expertise in different domains. Many of these schools are experts in finance, for example, or consulting, etc. So I wanted to cover all those bases. The second thing I wanted to cover was US versus UK. That's why I applied to LBS as well, because I wanted to look at UK as an option. So that's what I tried to do when I was applying for schools. I think in my mind, I was just trying to cover all bases and to make sure that there were diverse options in my selection.
Right, right. And when you started like looking at the applications or the essays, so I mean, did you kind of anticipate that you would be doing a lot of introspection, or did that bit come as a surprise for you?
So I actually knew that I would be doing a lot of introspection because I sort of researched about the process beforehand. To start with, right, I think the first thing I did was thought about everything that I had done at my workplace in the last few years, because I needed that information to build my resume, to basically understand what was important, what was not that important, what helped me grow as a person. So that was the first step of sort of getting the resume together and introspecting on whatever you had done. The second step was understanding what are my goals from here, and what do I want to do in my life. And I think most of us get so busy with work that we don't give that much thought. So that was the next thing that I really had to do. And after that, basically picking out the stories and the experiences in your life that matter, right? So not just work, but even extracurriculars, even experiences as a child, right? So all of those experiences that matter, putting them down together, and then sort of being sure that, hey, these are the experiences that matter to me. Of course every school has different questions, but I know that these are the experiences that I have to build on.
Right, right. Okay, so I mean, for students who are thinking about universities or don't know where to start, looking for universities, a lot of them they start by looking at the rankings, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But do you have any specific tips that you want to give them, like what to look out for, how to look for these schools, how to see whether there is a match with their profile and what the universities are expecting or not? I mean, any tips?
I think first, the GMAT score also matters a lot. There are two sides to this, right? One is which schools will accept you, and the second is which schools do you actually want to go to. And I think looking at both objectively is very important. So one, right, which schools do you want to go to? I think in that, firstly, understanding what do you want to do in your life. If you want to do VC, then a particular school will be more suitable to you. If you want to do tech or product, then another school will be useful to you. So, firstly, I think shortlisting based on that. Of course, there will be shortlist based on ranking as well, and there's nothing bad in that. That's perfectly fine. So, of course, that factor also comes in. And also, I would say, where do you want to live, right? Like, if you want to settle down in the UK, then why not try for a UK based school? So, I think that's another thing that matters. So that's one side of it. Second, I think which schools will actually accept you. There, I think also being realistic, right? Like, what are the experiences that you've had? What is the GMAT score that you have? Like, which are the schools that would probably it would be easier to get an acceptance in those schools. So I think thinking about it from both sides of the spectrum is sort of important.
That's awesome. That's really helpful. I think I really like this point that that you say that you have to also think about where you want to settle down. So if somebody wants to live in Canada or a UK, then they should. It makes sense to apply to a couple of the good universities there. I think striking a balance between what you want plus having a brand name on your CV. I mean, ultimately, an MBA is for life. You don't do it twice, so it makes sense to choose a university where even 10, 15 years down the line, when you send your CV, for a job, the recruiters would like sit up, and take notice. Right? That also is an important bit. And as for GMAT preparation, how would you advise students to start off with? What should be the first step, and any specific tips?
I think first, what I had done, and I did make a few mistakes in my preparation for sure, but I think based on what I had done, right, I would definitely recommend starting with the OG. And the other thing that I did, which I found really useful, was basically just going to YouTube and watching videos of what other people had done. Because there are several mistakes that you will make in the process and which other people have made before you, right? So if you watch those videos, if you understand what other people have done, you will probably not make those mistakes. For example, the timing thing, right? Like, how do you keep time? There are different people who do different things to keep time, and different things work for different people. So for you to understand what all is out there and then pick the one that applies to you, I think that helps. So those were the first two things I started with, just doing the EOG and looking at different videos and getting a feel of what the exam is really about. And once your basics are set right, then I think the next step, where you do advanced questions and above 700 level questions, there I completely relied on the Jambori portal. I think some of the tests, if I take today, I will still not be able to get full or even get good marks in it. So there are a lot of challenging questions out there. So I think for 700 plus, I would definitely recommend going through the Jambori portal.
Now let's come to the university interviews. They would have been interesting, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
you have interviewed all six of them. Oh no, five of them, right?
yeah.
So any particular interview that you found interesting or difficult? Anything?
So interviews were a little similar. I think Wharton was the only interview where there was a group discussion. So that was a completely different process. Because I think Wharton, the entire idea was how do you behave in a group and how do you collaborate with people around you. So it was completely different, and that was very very new to me. But the other interviews were a little similar. Of course, the person taking the interview is different in the sense that there might be an alumni taking the interview or a member of the admissions team. So that sort of differed from school to school. But I think the basic thing that they really wanted to understand, right? Like, one was behavioral questions, right? So how would you respond to certain experiences that you faced, and what did you really learn out of it? So I think that in that element, they wanted to understand who you really are. So that's the first element. The second element is who you want to be moving forward. So what are your goals? What do you want to do to get to those goals? That was really the second element. And third, of course, about your industry. So if you're working, for example, I was at a startup, which is a technology and a commerce startup. So I should definitely know about what's happening in that industry. So broadly, I think all interviews covered these three aspects, apart from the Wharton interview, which was completely different, and that was mostly a group discussion.
Tell me a little bit about this group discussion mode.
Uh,
How many people were there?
so there were
And what's the
about
time?
there were about 5 to 6 people, and you're given about 30 minutes. And the topic is sort of given to you beforehand. So you just need to make sure that so you know exactly what the points are and you know what you want to say. Because in your head, you've already chalked out the plan for yourself that, if you need to do XYZ, you know how you want to do it because you have time to think about it. The main challenge there is that there are 6 people in the call, right? So 5 more apart from you. So your plan will not always work, which means that you need to collaborate with them, incorporate their ideas, work together as a team, and come up with a final plan which is aligned with everyone on the call. So that is really the challenge, and that's what they want you to overcome. And then there are 2 members of the Wharton admissions team who are basically just observing you throughout the 30-minute group discussion.
So it is a group discussion, or it's more like a case study kind of thing?
No, I would say it's more of a group discussion
Okay,
because
okay.
it's very flexible. I mean, it's a very broad topic and it's open to discussion. It's on the flow. So whatever you do, right? Case studies, I feel, are a little more structured.
Right, right,
Group discussion, they want you to talk and figure out what the agenda should be and just discuss everything.
right, right. All right. So, and how did your Harvard interview go? How long was it, And who was your interviewer? I mean, don't take the name obviously, but was it an alumnus or an admissions committee
No,
member?
so our interviews are done by admission committee members. And I really, really enjoyed my Harvard interview. It's a 30-minute interview and it's 30 minutes by the clock. It's literally, they're very, very particular about time. And it's more of a rapid fire interview. So they keep asking you questions and you keep answering. And it's a very, very interesting interview because the person who's interviewing you on the other end has read all about you. So they've read your application essays, they've read your resume, I mean, they know a lot about you. So they know exactly what questions to ask because they know what questions matter to you because that's what you mentioned in your application form. So it's very quick. And every question that they ask you, you have like about a minute or something to answer, not more than that. So they're very brief answers. But I think mainly what they want to see is how do you think? Can you think on the spot? And where exactly does your thought process go? And also testing your knowledge about the industry, etc. for sure.
So I think one good one tip, for the attendees is that no matter which B school you get an interview from, do reread your application before the interview. Because when you apply to 4 or 5 universities, you may not exactly remember what you wrote in which essay. So that night before the interview or a couple of days before the interview, just give a thorough read, to your the application that you submitted, so that as Chani is saying, if it turns out to be a rapid fire kind of interview, then you should not stumble, you should not fumble, obviously, right? Okay, so the we'll open up the floor for questions now. So if anybody has any questions for Chani, you can raise your hand and I will give you mic access. Alternatively, you can write your question in the chat, but I would actually prefer to hear a few voices. Yes, Sabah, please go on.
Hi, this is Piran. Congratulations, Chandri. It's really wonderful. Hearing from you. My question is, how do you feel the overall experience from the time you thought about MBA and by the time you got the admission? How was it? How was your balancing between work and your preparation towards MBA applications and all that? I'm trying to understand how much time you spend between work. You said Sundays, every Sundays. However, how did you feel the time you decided to do MBA and then by the time you got admission or completed the application process? So could you share some experience?
Got it. Hi, by the way, great to meet you. I think I would divide your question into two parts. One is GMAT preparation, and second is basically in the application process. And the reason I'm dividing it is because the time that I needed for both are quite different. I think on the GMAT preparation bit, right, that's something that you can keep quite flexible because based on your exam date, you can figure out how many hours you want to put and back calculate from that. So for example, if you don't have too much time because of your work, right, I would recommend keeping a few extra months, so maybe 3 months, so that the number of hours that you need to give per week are actually lesser. Because the way you need to think about GMAT is the number of hours that you need to put. So you need to allocate the number of months accordingly. Though I think for me, right, personally, I did take up a lot of time. So in the 2 months that I used for preparing, right, in the first month, most of the time that I used was over the weekends. But in the second month, I definitely had to take out a couple of hours every day, which sort of was challenging for me because my work did not have like standard timings, right? So it was becoming quite a lot of a challenge. And I think the second stage, right, the application process, I knew that I wanted to get the application process done in a month, which is what most people do. So most people take about 1 to 2 months to get all the application essays done. So for 6 schools, and if I took 1.5 months, I needed to take 2-3 weeks of work to do it properly. And you may not need to do that, but I wanted to do that to make sure that the application that I wrote was very sturdy and there was nothing that I was missing out.
Thanks for that explanation. Can I ask one more question if you don't mind? Was your recommendations, could you share some light on your recommendation? I hope definitely your CEO would have recommended you, right? If you can share some. And the other question is your industry that you're focusing on in the 4 years of experience. Were you in IT for banking, IT in telecom? What was the domain that you were? Thanks.
Got it. So your two questions were recommendations and industry, right?
Yeah, that's correct. First is the recommendations, people, if you can share. And then the second is the domain that you worked before. Like you worked in CEO office focusing on which domain?
Understood. So on the recommendation, I don't want to reveal the names of the people who gave my recommendation, but I would definitely, it's a very good question. So I'll definitely tell you a little bit about that. I think when I started off with the recommendation process, right, the main thing in my mind was, let me take the recommendation from someone very fancy, who's very well known, etc. And I think when I started doing the recommendations, right, I realized that the person giving the recommendation has to be someone who knows you well, compared to someone who probably is a very senior person somewhere, right? And the reason I'm telling you that is the questions that we got for the recommendations were very, very personal and in depth. So they were, of course, a lot about your work experiences. But if the recommender adds a personal touch about, how he knows you or how he's mentored you, it definitely helps, right? So when I thought about my recommendations, I have just worked in one company. So I thought of either taking the recommendation from two people in the same company, or I actually thought about taking the recommendation from one person in my company and one of my professors in college, just to sort of have like a difference of thought. In the end, I went with the former. So I took both my recommendations from someone in the same company, but I made sure that I take the recommendation from someone who also knows me, and the number of years that that person knows you, if that is also like towards the higher side, it's always better. So that's what I would recommend when you're taking recommendations from anyone. And second, in terms of industry, right, I'll go on a hunch here, and the reason you're probably asking about industry is because you feel that that sort of has some bearing on your application. Just one thing here, right? Through the application process, this is something I've realized. All schools want to make sure that they take people from different industries, just so when there are class discussions or case studies or anything, right, there are difference of opinions, and people sort of have like different thoughts which can sort of come together. So don't be worried about which industry you're in. So personally, as someone in the CEO's office, right, of course, I worked in different departments. So I worked in investor relations, I worked in finance, I worked in P&L management, which is mostly business accounting, etc. And I worked on strategic projects, which are also operationals and operational thinking and strategy, right? But I think the two main industries that I was really counted in were technology and commerce, because that's what my company was focused on. So that was basically my industry. But at the end of the day, don't be scared of which industry you're in, because ultimately they want a representation from all industries. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's perfectly answering the question. Thanks so much.
If anyone else has a question, please raise your hands. Oh, and by the way, if anyone wants to, like, Chani spoke a little bit about GMAT, etc. So if anyone, wants to take a demo class with either of Chani's faculty, you can leave your number in the chat and we will, help you schedule that. Okay. In the meantime, anybody has any questions for Chani? Please raise your hands. Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, can I ask a question? So you mentioned that for each, for example, each schools, they focus on different industries. Could you please like maybe just briefly share like from your knowledge or understanding which school focuses on which industry? So like you just mentioned that some schools, they probably there are more alumni going to VC, and some there are more alumni from another school going to consulting. So could you please maybe briefly share like the nuances between the industries that maybe each school focuses on? Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. I think honestly, I don't have too much expertise here, but I'll share whatever I know. So schools like Stanford, for example, are more focused on technology, product, etc. Because they're in the SF area, and that's what sort of SF is known for. um, Compared to that, Booth, right, is more focused on finance. It's more focused on economics because some of the best Nobel laureates are sort of professors there. But I think at the end of the day, right, what I was also saying previously, every school, irrespective of what their domain of expertise is, and this domain of expertise, you can Google and very easily understand what their expertise lies in. But I think they're also now specifically, they want to take people from different industries. So, for example, even if Stanford is focused on tech and product, right, they'll make sure that the class has people from different industries, whether it's VC or whether it's commerce or startups, etc. Because that basically represents diversity of thought within the class. So don't worry too much. And when you're selecting your school also, right, of course, go for the school that has an expertise in your domain. But even if you get into another school, right, which probably does not have expertise, it doesn't matter. Because ultimately in your class, there will be people from different backgrounds. So that's okay.
Got it. Thank you very much for the answer. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? So there's one more question. So did you get your essays reviewed by peers or anybody else? I think that's the question, I guess.
Okay. So I took a consultant for the admissions process. I think the main reason I took a consultant is because I often struggle with words. For me, it was easy to reflect and to understand who I am, what are the stories that matter, what is the content of my essay really going to be. But for me to put it into words was something that I was constantly struggling with. And I think that's where I needed the help of a consultant. So make sure that, I mean, I would recommend taking a consultant because that helped me put my thoughts into words. But whenever you take a consultant, right, I would definitely recommend speaking to the consultant beforehand, which is something I did. Tell them about your background, your profile, what your GMAT score is, where you're from, what are your ambitions, etc. Make sure that he understands you, because if he doesn't understand you, it's going to be very hard for him to pick up that entire essay writing process for you. So make sure that both things happen, right? Like he understands your profile and he is sure that he can sort of go ahead with it, and make sure that you're comfortable sharing things with him, because if you can't share openly, your essays will not be complete. So make sure you do both those things.
Any other questions for Chandni? Please feel free to raise your hand. I think you have successfully answered everyone's questions, Chandni. So by the way, Vishal and Roshan are also here. I don't know whether you noticed them or not.
I texted both of them.
Right. Yeah, so they were really excited, when you got your admit. So, so I think you have done a great, it's quite an accomplishment, and I think you are so articulate and you are such a genuine person. I'm sure you are going to do well in your MBA as well. So do make us proud and stay in touch. And thanks for taking out the time, and that too on a Sunday, to speak with us and our students. Any parting advice, words of wisdom, so to say.
I can't say something about words of wisdom. I don't know if this is if this counts as wisdom or not. But I think a couple of things that definitely helped me. Right, one, in the beginning when I thought about how much work I have to do to get to this point, it was very overwhelming. And I think one thing that helped me very early on was breaking down the process. So I know that next month my to do is to give the GMAT and prepare for that. After that, my to do is to basically fix my resume. Then it's basically to get my goals in order, then writing the essay, then submission, then video interview, then interview. So basically breaking down the steps along the way, right, and not worrying about step 5 when you're at step 1. I think that is something that really helped me, because when I was not doing that, it was very, very overwhelming. Second thing that really helped me was taking help from friends and families. I did also get my essay reviewed by my friends and family members. In fact, my family members helped me write the essay also. So it definitely helps when there are several minds at play apart from one. So I think these things definitely helped me. And GMAT for me would have been impossible without Roshan and Vishal. So completely owe the GMAT score to them.
Thanks, Chandni.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And everybody else, thanks for attending. I hope you, you had, you got some good advice that you will now put into practice and probably end up getting results, similar to Chandni. So bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.